So this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was pretty clever with the new stand it was introduced, but also we get to see the new Kira, and in fact we get to see the romantic Kira based on what his new wife has said. This is a really good episode, especially coming off of last week where Kira escapes from everyone and we don't know who he is or who he's gonna look like, but what's interesting is the guy keeps the same suit, but the only thing he changes, it looks like, is his tie. Obviously his face and hair have changed. You know, it's a spiky black, different, the facial, features are relatively the same, but there is some differences. But he keeps literally the same suit, which it was mentioned last week, but only changes the tie. It's like, that's gonna get him caught. Like, that's probably gonna be the way he gets caught, and that's actually pretty funny. But we start out the episode in an interesting way. We have a housewife who really is just living life. She has a son who really doesn't like her. Her husband just goes to work. He's not a deadbeat. He does have a job. He goes to work. He doesn't make a lot of money, but he really doesn't, give her attention. And she just kind of does whatever she can to try to piss him off just so he'll do something because she's so bored of her life. And as soon as you see him, I immediately clued in that it was Kira because his suit is literally the same. Like, we're not going to focus on that unless it was Kira. Like, there's no ifs and or buts about that. But what's interesting is afterwards we go and we focus on Josuke and everyone else. They're inside Kira's old home. And they're going through everything, and then we get this camera that, takes a photo. As soon as that happens, I got flashbacks in previous parts where cameras have been used for different things. Like, Joseph's ability is with a camera to see basically the future. So I knew something was up there. And when we get to see Kira's dad, haunting in the background, I actually thought that he was going to be an ally in some way. Like, I thought they were going to twist it, make it all creepy. So we thought he was going to be an enemy stand user. And in fact, he was going to help them, take down his son because he was disappointed. But nope, they 100% kept him as an enemy, but his stand is actually pretty interesting where he can capture anyone in a photo, and that's kind of like their prison or barrier. And that was really fascinating because Jotaro as well as Josuke get trapped in this, and when, Okuyasu tries to use his stand to remove him from the picture and not anyone else, because if they destroy the picture, they'll destroy themselves, which they actually do. If it's not for Josuke to repair the picture, they would have died. But they're actually trapped within this barrier, and it's really interesting, how this stand works. And, the only way that you could probably beat the stand, in my opinion, was to break the camera. Like, I thought maybe if you broke the camera, because the camera was the stand, possibly that was how they're going to beat it. But what they actually do is Jotaro actually takes a photo in the back and takes a picture of just him, so he's trapped in it. They fold the picture up, and I thought that was actually pretty clever, and then they break the camera. But I thought it was actually going to be that the camera itself was the stand, so I was actually interested that it wasn't, because if it was, he would have died, even though he is a ghost, or at least it looks like he's a ghost, unless, that's just part of him, I guess, doing what it is. But it'll be interesting nonetheless to see what happens with him later on. I expect we'll probably see him again later in the series, maybe a couple episodes down the line, but he does have the arrow, which it turns out there's multiple sets of this bow and arrow that give stand users their stand, which, not gonna lie, I didn't see that coming. I thought there was gonna be a one and only set, but now taking a look back at the other parts of how fast they were able to produce these stand users, it's not surprising that there is a lot of sets of these. But this guy escapes in a pretty interesting way, and it kind of shows where Kira got his intelligence, because Kira hid his abilities very well through school. He would get third place and everything. He wouldn't stand out, but he wouldn't totally suck either. He was just kind of in that middle ground. No one really minded him or paid too much attention to him. But his father literally, because Okuyasu puts a bunch of thumbtacks in the picture after they hang it up, because freaking Koichi wants to release him because, the guy's saying, oh, I can't breathe. And I'm just sitting here thinking, Koichi, come on, man. This guy's an enemy stand user. You can't do this shit. So Okuyasu puts a bunch of them in, and then he says, oh, I'm going to escape now. Thank you so much. And I was questioning, I was like, okay, so how is he going to escape this? Because that's actually pretty interesting. And my thought was, because there's so many holes, like maybe he could make his way out of the picture because there's all these holes. But no, he was just fooling everyone, and so as soon as they unwrapped it, he escapes, pulls the arrow, and now is on his way to see his son, or at least try to find his son. And this is interesting because if he gets that arrow that his father took, is he going to make his wife or, his girlfriend? No, I think it's his wife. I think he got remarried, if I'm not mistaken, or got married, because I don't think he ever got married to one of those hands or anything like that before. If that's the case, because at the end of the episode, Kira completely shifts, and I don't know what shifted him, but he completely shifts one night after coming home. You know, he starts cooking for his wife, he starts using a normal razor, not an electric razor, and when the landlord comes to get the rent, he actually uses his stand to steal money from him and pay up like 5 months in advance, pretty much, or at least 3 months in advance, because he had to pay the current months as well as the previous months, and then like a couple months in advance. And his wife is just in awe, like, I don't know how he's doing this, but this is so romantic. And when I heard that, I'm just like, man, Kira finally has a wife or a woman in his life that isn't just going to be a hand, that's actually going to be in support of him. Like, that's a twist. I mean, Kira's obviously going to die at some point. I mean, I don't see any way around it. It's similar to Dio, right? Dio was going to die at one point, and you know, Kira's going to die at one point. And we already have Dio out of the picture, but you know, Kira's going to go out somehow. But it's going to be interesting if Kira gets that arrow and actually makes his wife a stand user. Like, that would be actually pretty interesting if he did that. But I am curious because he started a new life, but he already has like a son and a wife. But my question is, does that son come from like a different, you know, father or something like that? Because what I thought they were doing this episode was they were showing Kira in the future, and then we were flashing back to Josuke and them, because it already showed he had a family and everything like that. So my assumption was, before the end that is, that it was going to be something like that, like we were focusing on 2 different time perspectives. But this is all the same time, like this literally, so either he's manipulated her mind into thinking that he is the son or the father to the son, or she just had a son with someone else and this is the new husband, like, or they adopted. Because there's no way he could have had a son in this short of time, especially because it looks like he's like 8 years old. So that'll be interesting too, but I'm really excited to see where this goes. But I have to say, I'm really liking the new Kira design. I'm really liking his wife, just because his wife's interesting, because she's just this housewife who was bored of everything, and now she's totally in awe of Kira. So that's going to be quite fascinating. But I mean, now that, you know, his father has the arrow, it's a whole different ballgame, because who knows what type of stand users are going to be created to go up against him. So that'll be interesting, but I'm interested to see where it goes and kind of what everything happens. But I have to say, all the animation and just the art, everything about this episode, I thought was really on point. I didn't notice any major dips in quality. You know, everything looked very fluid. There wasn't too much action, but there was a lot of stylized action, especially when, you know, Kira's father was trying to kill Josuke, and, you know, the knife was flying towards his face, things like that. It was really damn stylized, and I thought everything just looked really damn good. Like, no dips in quality, at least that I noticed. So if you guys watched the episode, let me know your thoughts and comments below. How do you feel about, you know, the new Kira, his wife, everything like that? And what do you think? Like, how many stand users do you think are going to be made from this? Because, you know, we do have like another core left of the show, but I don't think we're going to see too many new stands. Like we may see like a couple of them, and then we'll go back to Kira or something like that, but I don't think we're going to see a whole lot. But I mean, let me know your thoughts and comments below. Be sure to hit the like button to show your support, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe for more content like this and so much more. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.